I never thought money would break my marriage. When I married my husband, I believed we were a team. We planned everything together, from buying our little house to saving for vacations. But somewhere in the last year, things changed. Slowly at first, then all at once. It started with small comments. "Aurora, you spend too much on groceries." Or, "Aurora, why do your hair appointments cost so much?" At first, I laughed it off, thinking he was stressed from work. His company had been doing layoffs, and he came home tired and quiet every night. But then the comments grew sharper. "Aurora, you're the reason we're behind on bills." Or the one that stung the most, "Aurora, you're draining us." I didn't understand. I kept a clean home, worked part-time, and handled every bill with care. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't careless either. Still, his tone made me question myself. One night at dinner, he slammed his fork down and said, "We're sinking, and it's your fault." Something in me cracked. His anger felt too strong, too heavy, like it came from somewhere deeper than groceries or electricity bills. That night, I lay awake thinking about everything he blamed me for, and everything he wasn't telling me. The next morning, I tried to talk to him calmly. "Can you show me the numbers?" I asked. "Let's go through our account together." He wouldn't look at me. "You wouldn't understand," he muttered. "Just stop spending so much." That didn't sit right with me. I wasn't a child. I'd managed our bills for years. I knew every date, every amount, every due notice. His sudden secrecy felt wrong, like he was hiding something. Later that week, while cleaning his office space, I found a pile of unopened letters stuffed in a drawer. My hands shook as I pulled them out. They were overdue notices, credit cards, loans I didn't recognize, even a warning from the bank. My chest tightened. These weren't mine. These weren't our regular bills. When he got home, I held the stack in my hands. "What is this?" I asked. He snatched them away. "Private." "Private?" I repeated. "We're married." He glared at me. "Aurora," I said, "it's private. You don't need to worry about things you didn't cause." The words cut deep. I didn't cause this? Then why were his debts hidden? Why was I the one being blamed? That night, while washing my face, I whispered to myself, "Something is wrong. And he's lying." I felt it, heavy and real. A few days later, I received an unexpected phone call. I almost didn't answer because the number was unfamiliar. But something told me to pick up. "Hello, is this Aurora?" "This is Daniel, from Ledger and Company. I'm your husband's accountant." My heart jumped. Why would his accountant call me? "Yes," I said slowly. "Is something wrong?" He hesitated before speaking. "I can't share much without permission, but I want to give you a warning. You need to look closely at your finances. Especially the shared accounts." My stomach nodded. "Why?" He breathed into the phone like he was choosing every word carefully. "Because your husband has been making unusual withdrawals. Large amounts. And he hasn't told you." My legs went weak. "Withdrawals for what?" Like I said, I can't legally share details. But I needed to call you, because your name is on some of the accounts. If things continue this way, you could be held responsible. I felt cold all over. He added, "Aurora, check everything. Soon." Before I could ask more, he ended the call. I stood there shaking. My husband said I was the problem. But now a stranger, his own accountant, was warning me to protect myself. And suddenly, the blame he kept placing on me felt like more than anger. It felt like a cover-up. That evening, I waited for him to come home. I wasn't angry, just scared. When he finally walked through the door, I stood in the kitchen clutching my phone. "Your accountant called me today," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He froze. His hand tightened around his keys. "What did he tell you?" he demanded. "That I should check our accounts. That I could be responsible for something you're doing." His face twisted into something dark. "He had no right to call you. He overstepped." "I'm your wife," I said softly. "Why can't you tell me what's going on?" He threw his keys on the counter. "Aurora, I told you already, our money issues are because of your spending. Stop trying to make this about me." I stepped back. "Then show me the account." "No," he snapped. "Drop it." His refusal was like a punch. My fear turned into icy realization. Something he was doing, something big, had left him desperate enough to blame me for everything. When he stormed upstairs, I locked myself in the bathroom and cried quietly into a towel so he wouldn't hear. But underneath the tears was something stronger, a sharp, growing certainty. If I didn't find the truth soon, I would lose everything. And he would let me take the fall. The next morning, I woke up determined. I waited until he left for work, then sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. My hands trembled as I logged into our main shared bank account. It showed what I expected: usual bills, usual groceries, nothing strange. So I checked the savings. Denied. I froze. We always shared the password. Why was it changed? I tried again. Same message. A chill ran through me. That account held most of our emergency funds, money I thought was untouched. Then I remembered what the accountant said: look closely at your finances. Especially the shared accounts. Shared. That meant there were more. I opened the online banking menu and searched through every tab, every option. That's when I found it. A hidden subaccount connected to our names, but never mentioned to me. My pulse pounded as I clicked it. The screen loaded slowly, almost painfully. Then it appeared. Not a balance. A negative balance. Deep into the negatives. Thousands. My breath caught. And then I saw the final entry, a transfer out to somewhere I didn't recognize. My whole body went cold. My husband didn't blame me because I spent too much. He blamed me because he needed someone to blame. And now, I knew where to start digging. I sat staring at the screen, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. The hidden account wasn't just drained, it was wrecked. The balance showed overdraft fees stacked like bricks. And the last transfer? It was massive. Way more than any bill we had. I clicked the transaction details. It listed a payment to a company I didn't recognize. Something called Brightwave Solutions. When I Googled it, almost nothing came up. No website. No office address. Just one line on a business directory: private investment partnership. Investment? My husband had been talking about quick money ideas months ago. I thought it was just talk. But now it looked like he had dumped our savings into something risky, or worse, something fake. The accountant's warning echoed in my mind. You could be held responsible. I pressed my hand against my chest, trying to breathe normally. I never agreed to any of this. I never signed anything. But if my name was tied to the account... My phone buzzed. It was a text from him. Don't touch the accounts. We'll talk tonight. My fingers tightened around the phone. How did he know I looked? A new fear crept in. He was watching the accounts. Watching me. I closed the laptop slowly. For the first time, I realized I wasn't just uncovering financial secrets. I was uncovering lies he never meant for me to survive. When he came home that evening, the air in the house felt thick. I was in the living room pretending to read, though the book hadn't moved in 40 minutes. He walked in quietly, almost too quietly. "You checked the accounts," he said flatly. I swallowed hard. I had to. He set down his bag with a thud. "I told you not to touch them." "That's not how marriage works," I said, voice trembling. "Why is there a hidden account? Why is it empty? What is Brightwave Solutions?" His jaw tightened. "You don't need to know about that." "Yes," I said, standing. "I do. Because my name is tied to that account." He stepped closer, eyes cold. "You caused stress. You pushed me. You." "No," I cut in. "Do not blame me for something you did." For a moment, something ugly flashed in his eyes. Then he smiled. A strange, sharp smile. "Fine," he said. "You want the truth? The money is gone. I invested it, and it tanked. I'm fixing it. But you going through the accounts makes everything worse." "Worse for who?" I whispered. He didn't answer. He only grabbed his bag again and said, "I need space. Don't look at anything else." He left. The door slammed. And for the first time, I felt afraid of the man I married. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the conversation, the twisted smile, the way he said, "I'm fixing it." Fixing what? The missing money? Or the fact that I now knew? The next morning, I called the accountant, the one who had warned me. He answered quickly, voice tense. "Aurora?" "I checked the accounts," I said. "I saw everything. I need to know what's going on." He sighed heavily. "I knew this would happen. Listen, your husband has been making risky investments without telling you. Some didn't just fail, they collapsed. Brightwave Solutions was flagged as a possible scam." "A scam?" I gripped the edge of the table. "And he used our savings?" "Yes," he said softly. "And loans." "Loans?" My voice broke. "In my name?" "That's the thing," he said. "Some are joint. Some he applied for a loan. But banks may hold both of you accountable. That's why I reached out." My legs felt weak. I sat down slowly. Then he added something that made my blood run cold. "There is one more account. A locked one. A high-security savings account I can't access without both signatures. If he used it illegally. Aurora, you need to check it." Locked. The word echoed in my mind. I whispered, "Where do I find it?" "I'll send the login route," he said. "But be careful. Once you open it, everything will change." Everything already had. An hour later, I sat at my laptop again, staring at the screen the accountant instructed me to access. The locked account wasn't in the usual menus. It was hidden behind layers of settings, as if someone deliberately didn't want it found. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Opening it felt like crossing a line I couldn't come back from. But the truth was already heavy on my shoulders. I took a breath and typed in the login sequence. A message popped up. "Secondary authentication required." The box showed his phone number. I froze. I needed his approval to access the account. But then something strange happened, a second option appeared. "Use manual override code." Under it, in small letters. "Authorized for spouse access in emergencies." My heart pounded. Was this what the accountant meant? Had he sent me the code? I checked my email. There it was, a long string of numbers and letters. My hands shook as I entered it. The screen flickered. Loading. Loading. Then it opened. I gasped. The balance wasn't negative. It wasn't drained. It was full. Overflowing. More money than we ever had. More money than he ever told me about. My breath hitched. He didn't lose money. He hid it. From me. I stared at the numbers, unable to move. The account held more money than any normal savings account should. It wasn't just our emergency fund. It was something else, something bigger. Something intentional. Transaction history showed steady deposits over the last 3 years. Thousands. Sometimes tens of thousands. And none of it matched his salary. I scrolled down, confusion turning into dread. Where did this money come from? And why was he pretending we were broke? As I scanned the notes beside each deposit, one detail made my skin crawl. Transfer source, Brightwave Solutions. But Brightwave was supposed to be a scam. A failure. A financial black hole. So why was it feeding money into a hidden account? My mind raced. Had he lied about losing money? Was he funneling money instead? And why blame me? Why accuse me of causing our financial problems while hiding a fortune? My stomach twisted as a horrifying thought surfaced. What if he wanted me to look responsible? What if the debt, the loans, were for me to take the fall? What if the hidden account was his real life, and our account was just a shield? My hands trembled violently. As I sat there, stunned, a car door slammed outside. He was home. And he had no idea what I'd just unlocked. The front door opened, and I snapped the laptop shut just as his footsteps entered the hallway. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. I tried to steady my breathing while wiping my palms on my jeans. "Aurora," he called, voice sharp, like he was already suspicious. "I'm in here," I answered, trying to sound normal. He stepped into the living room, eyes scanning my face. His hair was messy, and he looked stressed, but not in the way someone losing money would. More like someone losing control. "We need to talk," he said. I nodded, keeping my expression blank. "Okay. About what?" He hesitated, a tiny flicker, before he forced a sigh. "About our money. About the debt. About everything." I watched him carefully. He wasn't telling the truth. Not even close. "Sure," I said softly. "You can explain." He sat down across from me, wringing his hands. "Look. I've been under pressure. Work has been slow, bills piled up, and I didn't want to worry you. So, yes, I made some bad investment choices." He paused. "But I'm handling it. You don't need to dig around." There it was again, that word. Dig. He didn't want me anywhere near the truth. I forced a small nod. "Okay. I won't dig." But inside, I was already drowning in everything he'd buried. And he had no idea I'd already found all of it. He kept talking, giving half explanations about money moving around, about temporary losses, about fixing the situation. Every sentence was vague, slippery, avoiding solid answers. It wasn't a conversation. It was a performance. And I watched him closely, studying every lie, every forced sigh, every time he tried to shift the blame onto stress, work, life, anything except himself. When he finished, he leaned back, exhausted. Or pretending to be. "I just need time," he said. "Promise me you won't make things harder." My stomach tightened. Make things harder? He believed he still had control over the money, over the story, over me. I nodded slowly. "I understand." Relief washed over his face. "Good. I'll sort everything out." He stood and headed to the bedroom, muttering something about needing a shower. As soon as the door clicked shut, I reopened the laptop, hands still shaking. The hidden account page glowed on the screen. I scrolled deeper. And that's when I saw something worse than the money. Recipient, Brenner Law Group. Purpose, retainer for separation and asset protection filing. A legal retainer. For separation. My throat tightened. He didn't just hide money. He was preparing to leave. Preparing to cut me out. That hidden fortune wasn't for us. It was for his life without me. I stared at the retainer entry until my vision blurred. My husband, the man who blamed me for everything, wasn't trying to fix our finances. He was preparing to vanish with a pile of money I never knew existed. And he wanted the debt attached to my name. When I could finally breathe again, I dug further. More transactions filled the screen: payments to a storage unit, payments to private consulting firms, transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Everything pointed to a single truth. He had been planning this for months. Maybe years. The worst part? The accountant had probably been trying to warn me long before he finally spoke up. I clicked open one more document, a digital receipt uploaded days ago. When I saw the item, I froze. It was a rental application for an apartment across town. Only his name was on it. Move-in date, 4 weeks from today. 4 weeks. He was building a second life. A new home. A new future. And blaming me for every dollar he hid. A noise sounded behind me, a soft creak from the hallway. I snapped the laptop closed again just as he stepped back into the room, hair damp, towel around his neck. "You okay?" he asked. My heart thudded painfully. "Yeah," I whispered. "Just tired." He didn't see it. But in that moment, something inside me broke cleanly. I was done being blindsided. If he was building an exit, I was building my own. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling while his slow breathing filled the room. The man I once trusted slept inches away, unaware that I knew every secret he thought he'd buried. Every hour that passed sharpened my resolve. At sunrise, I quietly slipped out of bed, making sure not to wake him. I grabbed my laptop and sat at the kitchen table, opening the files again with trembling hands. This time, I looked for something specific. Proof. Evidence. Anything that tied him, not me, to the scam investments and hidden funds. And it didn't take long. He had signed digital forms. He had authorized transactions. He had created accounts linked only to his ID numbers. He had moved money without reporting it. Every pattern pointed straight to him. Not me. Not us. Him. My fear slowly shifted into something else, something steadier, colder. Clarity. I copied everything into a secure folder and backed it up on an external drive. Then I emailed the accountant asking for a private meeting. He replied within minutes. "Come by my office today. Don't bring your husband." At 9 a.m., I got dressed quietly and grabbed my bag. As I passed the bedroom door, he stirred and mumbled, "Where are you going?" I forced a calm voice. "Grocery run." His eyes stayed closed. Good. Because the next place I was going wasn't a grocery store. It was the place that would finally show me how deep his lies went. The accountant's office smelled faintly of coffee and paper, strangely comforting. He closed the door behind me and gestured for me to sit. "You saw everything?" he asked. I nodded, my throat tight. All of it. The money. The retainer. The apartment. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. I suspected he was moving funds illegally. I just didn't know how much. "What happens now?" I whispered. He hesitated. "That depends on what you want. You can confront him. You can involve an attorney. You can freeze accounts. You have options, but you have to act fast. Fast? I echoed. He opened a folder on his desk and slid a printed document toward me. It was a dated record from 2 weeks ago. Financial exit packet prepared filed under dissolution strategy. My chest constricted. What does that mean? It means, the accountant said softly, your husband is preparing to separate from you and protect all hidden assets before you can claim anything. A cold wave washed over me. Before I could speak, he added, you were never the problem. He created a story where you were the cause, so no one would question him when he left. I pressed my hands to my face, shaking. Then he said the words that changed everything. You have legal access to the locked account. If you want protection, now is the time to secure what he tried to hide. I lowered my hands slowly. For months, he'd been planning to walk away with everything. Now? I had the power to walk away first. And not empty-handed. I left the accountant's office with my mind spinning. The sun outside felt too bright for the kind of truth I was carrying. Cars passed, people laughed, life moved normally, but nothing felt normal to me anymore. My husband had planned to disappear with our money. Blame me publicly. Leave me with the debt. Walk into a new apartment, a new life, a new narrative where he was the victim. He thought I was still in the dark. He had no idea the sun had just come up on everything he tried to bury. When I got home, the house was quiet. He was still asleep, or pretending to be, because his truck was in the driveway. I slipped into the office, closed the door gently, and opened the laptop again. My heart hammered as I logged into the hidden account using the credentials the accountant had helped me confirm. The balance blinked onto the screen, $482,916.09. Nearly $500,000. Money he'd hoarded, hidden, redirected, all while telling me we were drowning. Money he planned to run away with. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wasn't going to drain it or steal it, I wasn't him. But I was going to protect myself. Using the legal tools the accountant outlined, I initiated a freeze request tied to my marital rights. Within minutes, the account's status changed. Authorized access restricted, under review. He couldn't touch a single dollar. Not one. And he had no idea what was coming. Around noon, he finally woke up. I heard his footsteps pounding down the hallway like he already sensed something was wrong. My stomach tightened as the office door swung open. There you are, he said, forcing a smile that didn't meet his eyes. Did you get groceries? No, I answered calmly. His expression flickered. What do you mean, no? I closed the laptop slowly and met his stare. We need to talk. A shadow passed over his face, something dark, something calculating. What about? Money, I said simply. Our money. A muscle in his jaw twitched. I told you I'd handle it. No, I corrected softly. You told me what you needed me to believe. He blinked, taken aback. What's that supposed to mean? I stood, steady and unmoving. I know about the hidden account. His skin drained of color. What account? The one you used to move nearly $500,000, I said. The one your accountant warned me about. For a moment, his expression stayed blank, then his mask cracked. You had no right. I had every right, I cut in calmly. I'm your wife. He stepped closer, pointing at me. Do you have any idea what you've done? I held his stare. Yes, I said. For the first time. I protected myself. His face contorted, fear, anger, panic all fighting for space. He shoved past me and yanked the laptop open. When he saw the account's status, he froze. The money wasn't gone. It was locked. And he had no access. "What did you do?" he shouted, gripping the laptop so hard I thought he'd snap it in half. I stayed calm. "I didn't take anything. I didn't move anything. I just froze the account." "You froze my money?" "It's our money," I said. "We're married. That account was private." His voice cracked. "You set it up during our marriage. You used joint funds. You buried income. Legally, I have access." He slammed the laptop shut, face red, breath shaking. "You don't understand how this works." "I understand more than you think," I replied. He grabbed his phone and dialed someone, probably his lawyer, pacing the room like a trapped animal. After a few seconds, he cursed. "He's not answering." I folded my arms. "Maybe he knows what you've been doing." He glared at me, eyes burning. "You just ruined everything." "No," I said softly. "You ruined everything when you hid it." He ran a hand through his hair. "We needed that money. I was planning to leave," I finished for him. "I know about the retainer. And the apartment." He froze mid-step. Slowly, he turned toward me. "You went through my private records?" "You built a prison around me," I said. "I just found the exit." The silence that followed was the heaviest moment of my marriage. He wasn't just angry. He was exposed. That afternoon felt like walking through a storm without getting wet. He hovered around the house, restless, snapping at anything that made a sound. I stayed out of his way, not afraid, just done. Every few minutes, he picked up his phone, checked it, slammed it down. No one was calling him back, not his lawyer, not his accountant, not the people he thought he controlled. At one point, he stormed into the kitchen where I was making tea. "You blindsided me," he said, voice low but shaking. I looked at him steadily. "You were planning to disappear. I was planning to survive." He scoffed bitterly. "You think you're smart? You think freezing the account fixes everything?" "No," I said. "But it stops you from draining it." He leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "You don't know what you've started." I didn't move. "Neither do you." He pointed at me sharply. "You're going to regret this." I met his threat with the calmest voice I could manage. "No. I'm going to rebuild after this. You're the only one who's losing." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Instead, he stormed off again, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. When the house finally went silent, I sat at the table and breathed. This wasn't just a fight. It was a turning point. And I wasn't stepping back into the shadows. Not ever again. Later that evening, I got an email from the accountant. "Aurora, the freeze is officially in motion. Based on what you provided, you have grounds to secure your share. You also need to be prepared. He is likely to try something drastic next. Call me if anything changes." I read it twice, then again, the warning echoing in my mind. Something drastic. I didn't doubt it. He had already built a plan behind my back, a plan that required me to stay quiet, lost, blind, obedient. Now that I wasn't any of those things, he was unraveling. I walked into the bedroom to grab my charger and saw him sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor like a ghost. He didn't look up. "You know." I really thought I had everything under control. I didn't respond. He lifted his head slowly. "But you were 10 steps ahead." "No," I said quietly. "I was just done being behind." He swallowed hard. "What now?" I stood in the doorway, feeling strangely steady. "Now? We let the truth do what it does." His jaw tightened, but this time he didn't argue. Maybe he finally understood. I wasn't the woman he'd blamed. I was the woman who unlocked everything he hid. And the consequences were just beginning. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of drawers opening and closing. Not loudly, frantically. When I stepped into the hallway, I found him in the office again, tossing papers around like they were burning his hands. "What are you doing?" I asked. He didn't look at me. "Trying to fix this." "You can't unfreeze the account," I reminded him. He shot me a glare. "I can do a lot more than you think." I leaned against the doorframe. "Like what?" "Shout? Threaten? Run? Those were your strong points." He froze, chest rising and falling. "You ruined months of planning," he said bitterly. "You mean months of lying." He slammed a folder down. "We would have been fine if you hadn't gone digging." "No," I said calmly. "We would have been divorced, broken my name, and you'd be living comfortably off money you stole from your own marriage." His jaw tightened. "You don't understand how much pressure I was under." "Then you should have talked to me." He didn't respond. A few minutes passed before he whispered, "They're going to audit everything now." "Good," I said. "They should." He stared at the scattered papers, shoulders slumped. The man who once acted invincible looked small, like someone finally facing the consequences he created. When he finally spoke again, his voice cracked. "What do I do now?" I swallowed. "Tell the truth." He didn't argue. Because he knew that was the one thing he'd never done. 2 days later, things escalated fast. I was making breakfast when he rushed in holding his phone. "The accountant just called me," he snapped. "They're reviewing every account. Joint, private, business. All of it." "That's the process," I said calmly. He stared at me like I'd personally lit the fuse on his life. "They're asking questions I can't answer." "You mean questions you don't want to answer?" He ignored that. "They want 3 years of documentation. They want your statements too. Then they'll get them." He rubbed his face harshly. "You're too calm." "Why are you so calm?" "Because for the first time, I wasn't the one lying." He paced the kitchen like a storm. "This could ruin me." "It didn't have to," I reminded him. "You made these choices." He stopped pacing and looked at me, eyes glassy. "I never thought it would get this far." I sighed. "It got this far because you pushed it this far." He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." The words didn't land. Not because I didn't want to hear them, but because they were too small for the damage done. "I'm sorry doesn't fix months of secrets," I said quietly. "It doesn't fix planning to leave me." He flinched. "I know," he whispered. For a moment, the house went still. And in that stillness, I realized something. I didn't hate him. I was simply done letting him hurt me. The official audit began on a Thursday afternoon. I had to be present for the meeting, which took place in a glass-walled conference room at the financial office. He sat on one side of the table, rigid and pale. I sat on the other, steady. The examiner reviewed everything with clinical precision. "Mr. Shaw," she said, "you transferred funds without disclosure. Can you explain why these amounts were hidden?" He opened his mouth, closed it, then muttered, "I was trying to protect our future." I shook my head gently. Protecting a future doesn't require hiding $500,000 from your spouse. He shot me a warning look, but the examiner nodded. "Mrs. Shaw is correct." Document by document, lie by lie, the truth unfolded like a slow, painful confession. "You also hired counsel without notifying your spouse," the examiner added. "And paid them with undisclosed funds." He slumped in his seat. I watched him, not with anger, but with clarity. I was seeing the real him without the excuses, without the charm. When the meeting ended, the examiner gathered her papers. Mr. Shaw, based on your actions, your wife is legally entitled to half the frozen account. Possibly more. He stared at the table. And Mrs. Shaw, she continued, you will receive written confirmation soon. I nodded. Thank you. As we left the building, he followed behind me slowly, like he'd aged years in one afternoon. Aurora, he said weakly, please, don't take everything. I stopped walking. You hid everything, I said softly. I'm just taking back what you tried to erase. He moved out the next week. Not dramatically, quietly. He didn't slam doors or shout threats this time. Instead, he packed his things with the hollow stillness of someone who finally understood the cost of his own actions. I watched from the hallway, arms crossed. Each item he packed felt like another truth settling into place. The marriage we had, the trust we once shared, all of it had been cracked long before I found the account. When he closed the last box, he paused. I never meant to hurt you, he said softly, not meeting my eyes. I exhaled. Then why did you? He swallowed. I thought I could control everything. That's the problem, I said. You never controlled it. You only hid it. He nodded slowly, like the truth stung. As he walked toward the door with the final box, he turned back one last time. You were smarter than I thought. A small, sad smile touched my lips. You underestimated me. He stepped outside, and for the first time, the house felt peaceful, like a heavy weight had lifted from every corner. When the door clicked shut behind him, I leaned against the wall and let out a breath I'd been holding for months. Not a breath of sadness. A breath of freedom. Because he had stolen money, trust, love, and safety from me. But he didn't get to steal the rest of my life. 2 months later, the final audit results arrived. I was awarded 62% of the frozen account. The examiner's letter explained that he had violated multiple marital financial laws, giving me legal rights to a larger share. When I told the accountant, he smiled. You handled this with more strength than most people ever find. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. Clean. Whole. Later that afternoon, I drove to the lake, the same one where I had once cried over bills and blame. The water was calm, the sky soft, the world quiet. I sat on a bench, closed my eyes, and breathed. He had tried to break me with lies. He had tried to paint me as the problem. He had tried to leave me with nothing. But in the end, his deception built my freedom. When I got home, I poured a glass of iced tea, sat by the window, and watched the sunlight spill across the living room floor. My phone buzzed, a message from him. I hope you're happy. I typed back only 2 words. Finally am. Then I blocked the number. The house stayed silent. A good silence. A new silence. A silence I had earned by unlocking the truth he never wanted me to see. And as I closed the curtains and walked deeper into my own life, I realized something simple. I wasn't the woman he blamed. I was the woman who exposed everything he hid and built a future he couldn't steal.